We'll break down the keys to the Arizona game. I think the Frogs win at home and move to 7-4. I'll tell you how next here on Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team. We do it here every day.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. Thanks for joining in on the show. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also find us on your favorite podcast platform. It is Locked On Horned Frogs. TCU plays Arizona at 2 o'clock on Saturday. So we'll break down that here in segment one. TCU women, they're back in action this afternoon. Won't really have a recap of that game, but just kind of a quick kind of overview of where we are with basketball. You guys had a lot of reaction to yesterday's show, so we'll cover all that ground here on Thursday's episode. But we start with the keys to this football game. How does TCU come out with a victory against an Arizona team that's 4-6, but does have talented players? Noah Fafita, it was tagged as one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12 coming into the season. He's had sort of an up and down year. Someone who hasn't had an up and down year, he's had a very successful and very productive year at wide receiver, is Teratuga McMillan, over 1,100 yards. And TCU will have to find a way to slow down that combo. Keys to the game here. First off, I think I didn't go back and forth about this, but I sort of debated how to word it. I really feel like the key with Arizona is limiting McMillan is part of it, but it's more so, can you slow down everybody else? Because I think Teratuga McMillan's going to get yardage on Saturday afternoon. I mean, just based on TCU's issues at corner, the fact that Andy Avalos likes to put his guys in competitive one-on-one situations where they're sort of isolated on an island and they have to make plays, I feel like that's going to bode pretty well for him in one-on-one matchups. Now, one guy that I didn't mention, because I assume they're going to throw a lot of different looks at him and just try to change it up and not allow him to get comfortable. I would imagine Lamarian James is going to be the dude that gets primary assignment. Maybe you see some Channing Canada. One player that's emerged lately is Javon McIver, and he's very physical. We saw with JT Broughton early in the season, he had some success being a physical corner. Now, as the season's gone on, he's really, really struggled, and I would try to limit his opportunities against McMillan as much as possible. But maybe this is a game where you give McIver some more opportunities just in that specific matchup, and you say, hey, if we can keep this guy fresh and allow him to kind of change up the vibe a little bit, bring some more physicality to the table, and have him at his best, then that could work well. But outside of McMillan, I mean, Chris Hunter has 259 yards. Kean Burnett, their tight end, has 217 yards. Quali Conley, their running back, has 201 yards receiving. They don't – like, he is getting the targets. It's crazy how much of a share of the production he has. This isn't even like Jack Best, who's having a great year, but – you see Savion Williams with over 500 yards, and they're using Savion in some different ways now, which has made a difference. J.P. Richardson has made some plays. Eric McAllister has been involved occasionally. Their offense is finding a way to get Teratuga McMillan the football. And so with that being said, he's going to make some plays. I think the key is you can't allow him to go for like 250. And he's had some weeks where he went over 300 yards against New Mexico. He had over 200, I think, against West Virginia. He's had some great performances this year. I can look it up while I'm doing the show here and give you actual facts instead of just kind of guesstimating what some of his yardage totals are. 304 yards against New Mexico, had 138 against K-State, 161 against Texas Tech, 202 against West Virginia. Now he's also had some weeks where he's been slowed down a little bit, but I feel like the key is don't allow somebody else to go off. Like if Teratuga McMillan ends up being the dude that puts a number on you, that wouldn't be ideal, but I feel like you can kind of live with that and say, well, hey, that guy won a lot of battles. He won a lot of matchups. We did what we could. We kind of threw the kitchen sink at him. It didn't work out. Do not allow somebody to emerge as a second or third viable option. Put your focus on McMillan. And as much as it's a secondary issue, it's about what the secondary can do. A lot of it is what can your pass rush do as well. Devin Deal, can he get to the quarterback? Cooper McDonald coming back from injury. Marcel Brooks and Jonathan Backs if they get in there. Marcus Deal back from, an injury that limited him for a few weeks. Hakeem Ajibalaiba in the interior. Find a way to make Noah Fafita uncomfortable. They have given up 24 sacks this year. So there's been opportunities to move him out of the pocket, to get him on the ground, to throw them for a loss. So do that, and there's nothing that is more disruptive for a passing game, whether it's rhythm, timing, trying to get long developing plays down the field. All of it can be thwarted by a relentless pass rush that is consistently getting home and making things happen. Now, TCU has not been great. They've had their moments this year. They've had games where they've wreaked havoc in the backfield. It hasn't been a week-to-week deal. And that's what you would love to see more of in this specific matchup, because you can't give Fafita time to just sit back there and allow, McMillan to go make plays and beat these corners in one-on-one situations. You have to find a way to get the ball out quick. And I did see Jason Shear mention, who covers Arizona. It seemed like last week in that win against Houston, Arizona made a concerted effort to get the ball out of his hands fast. So that's an adjustment that they made. TCU's had some time to prepare for this. They had a bye week. And there's been no major personnel changes for the Wildcats. You know what they're going to do. You know what they're going to be about. So I would hope, especially early in this game, they would have a good game plan for what Arizona is going to try to accomplish and try to throw at them this weekend. So I think the first key is, you want to limit McMillan as much as possible, but the reality is he's probably going to have a productive night. Find a way to shadow and shut down everybody else. Don't allow someone else to go off and open up that passing game even more and allow opportunities for that big-time wideout, because suddenly you're having to allocate resources and give attention to other players because they're burning you down the field. Offensively, this team's been really good the last few weeks. I did an episode yesterday. Does it feel like we're trending towards a place where TCU has an elite offense, which is sort of what Sonny Dykes in the past has built his teams around? And it doesn't feel like it's come into its full form yet, but with the move of, putting Savion Williams in that Wildcat package, putting him in the backfield, giving you more balance, Josh Hoover protecting the ball, the team in general protecting the ball and not giving it away, suddenly this offense has scored on 15 of their last 22 drives. And they look like they're in a rhythm. It's been mainly against bad defenses, but Arizona's defense is not very good. And they're bad against the running game. So I don't really care if it's in the traditional way. I would love to see it in the traditional way. I would love for this to be another week where Cam Cook kind of continues to build on that momentum that he had against Oklahoma State, or Jeremy Payne gets some more just traditional out of the backfield carries and makes some things happen and shows you the ability to be a lead back, or Trent Battle makes something happen. I think the way the last few weeks have played out, though, we're going to see a heavy dose of what can Savion do in that kind of QB direct snap place or in the backfield. And I would hope Kendall Briles would have used this extra time to throw some wrinkles out there, because it felt like Oklahoma State had caught up to what they were trying to do in that Wildcat formation. They're like, okay, we're gonna shut this down. We're gonna bring a lot of run blitzes and pressure and cut this off, and you're gonna have to beat us in another way. And to their credit, they did. They found a way to be effective within the offense without that really being much of a threat. And Kendall Briles did a nice job adjusting on the fly. We'll see if there's some new wrinkles to that package and that formation this upcoming week, as they've had a little bit extra time to prepare. But keep the ball on the ground. They're going to go fast at times. The pace has slowed down, though, some. And, I know it's not the MO of this coaching staff, and it's not been what they've done in the past. I do think what the defense is currently constructed, if you can take time off the clock, that's a good thing. I know, in the new world of analytics, people are like, time of possession doesn't mean anything. I disagree. Maybe you can possess the ball, and that doesn't mean you're going to win the game. But I feel like it can really tip the scales in your favor if you're the one initiating it and you're able to impose your will running the ball. That also makes everything easier for Josh Hoover, and he's done a really nice job taking care of the ball, being productive, getting the ball down the field. And then finally, just continue to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. They have done an excellent job this season getting Jack Besh involved and giving him opportunities to go make plays. Savion Williams, they made this adjustment with him and how they use him within the offense. A+ so far, 5 stars. Eric McAllister, would love to see more of him. Jordan Bailey has suddenly become a force within this offense, and I love that. J.P. Richardson has a very clear and defined role, and he's performing it well. So continue to work on all those things and build momentum. I think if TCU takes care of business and takes care of the ball, comes out with motivation, with fire and intensity, I believe they win this game. I think it's going to be close because aside from, just blowing a tire against UCF, Arizona's been able to hang in most of these ball games. And they are coming off a win against Houston. I don't know what the pulse is there as far as how much Brett Brennan has gotten this group to rally around him. But it did feel like that Friday night game against the Cougars was a chance where they could have shut things down and the administration would have said, all right, we're going to move on and find another coach. But they didn't. They hung in there and they played well together and they got the job done and got a victory. So they still have bowl eligibility to play for, postseason potential to play for. And I do want to make this point before we move on. I think TCU wins. The spread's 11 points. I'll take Arizona to cover, but I think TCU wins. I think they win by 8 points. I won't give a final score prediction, but that's just kind of the vibe I have right now. There's been a narrative or a thought that I've seen this week. Just one of the things that I do with the podcast, I really try to keep tabs on how people are feeling, whether that's here on YouTube, on social media. I want to know what TCU fans are discussing. I want to know what they care about, right? That's part of the job. It does seem like maybe it's a small group, but there's a group of fans that are like, all right, we got to the bowl game. Now it's just all about seeing young guys building for the future, getting ready for 2025. And I've done a lot of talk about 2025 over the past week and a half, partly because they had a bye week and also because, these last 2 regular season games, in the grand scheme of things, it's just kind of a difference between if you won or lost. Now, they are technically, according to the Big 12, TCU is technically still mathematically alive in the Big 12 championship race. I don't think they're going to get to Arlington. But I will say this, even if they get eliminated from the Big 12 title race this weekend, and that could happen whether they win or lose. But even if that happens, these games are important because you're on the field and you're competing. There's one thing that the playoff, in my mind, has really hurt in the way we talk about college football. There's a belief now that you just need to make the playoff. You just need to win a conference title, and those are the only things that matter. And I agree that should be the goal each and every year. I hope that TCU, when they're going into spring camp, when they're going through all-season workouts in the summer, when they're getting together in fall camp and scripting out practices, I hope the coaching staff and the players are like, we're here to win a national title. That's what we want to do. We're here to make the college football playoff, to win a Big 12 championship. How realistic is that? I don't know. I think if the program continues to build and get talent and get, some of these things fixed, I think there's a world, the way the Big 12 is currently constructed, where they could compete for a Big 12 championship year in and year out. Doesn't mean they're going to win it every year, but they would be in the mix, right? If they would have just taken care of business in the second half against UCF and shown up against Houston, there's a world where they're in the driver's seat right now to go to Arlington. And listen, you can say that's a homer take, or you can play that game both ways because there's games like Tech where TCU probably should have lost. I'm just saying they had their chance with the schedule to have a better record and be in the mix. It didn't happen. Winning these games does mean something, though. It builds momentum. I think it instills confidence in the players, in themselves, but also in the players and trusting these coaches to say, okay, they've got the right idea. We need to keep buying in, keep chopping wood, and pull the rope the same way. So, I want to see some young guys get involved. I'm excited to see Ryan Hughes play tackle this week. Ready for him to get some snaps. I want to see more Jordan Bailey. I would love to see Jonathan Bax get in there at linebacker. I like that Javon McIver, once he's healthy, has started, kind of mixing in this corner rotation. But getting to 8-4 is meaningful to me. I don't think everything about college sports just boils down to the playoff itself. I can continue this discussion next. I need to take a quick break. We can do that here. Locked on Horned Frogs, it's your team every day. Let's talk about some of our great sponsors. One of those is Skylight Frames. If you've been missing someone this holiday season or you want to be connected with them from afar, give a great gift of Skylight Frames. Digital frames where you can upload pictures from wherever. It's the perfect gift for you. Touchscreen digital photo frame. Your whole family will love. You can upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's so easy to use. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. You can share and invite friends and family to share photos via the free Skylight mobile app. The touchscreen is a game changer. You can swipe through photos, tap to see new photos that have been sent, tap the heart button, and say thank you to the sender. It looks beautiful in your home. Photos are displayed in HD resolution. Satisfaction is guaranteed. We're confident you'll love Skylight. We offer free 120-day returns. Top-rated brand, over 1 million happy customers, thousands of 5-star reviews, and it's available in over 30 countries. Recommended by the Today Show, Forbes, New York Mag, and more. And now, as a special limited-time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go skylightframe.com/college. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/college. Get $20 off your purchase. Purchase now at skylightframe.com and again, /college. FanDuel, it's where the game starts. FanDuel, they make it easy for you if you want to get involved in the world of sports betting. Again, that line for TCU Arizona this week, Frogs are favored by 11 points. There's all kinds of college football games available for you. Notre Dame and Army. That's going to be a fascinating one this week. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. You win one $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets. Again, that's one winning $5 bet. Get you $150 in bonus bets. Give it a try today. NBA, NHL. It's a great time to be a sports fan. Get in on the action at FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app today. All right, continuing here on Locked On Horned Frogs. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. I think there's this idea, though, now that if you're not competing for a national title or you're not competing for a conference title, which TCU still technically is, then the season's totally lost. But one of the beautiful things about this sport to me for such a long time is it's not exactly like the NFL. Like you can see, I mean, in the NFL, yeah, everybody's getting paid, and I guess in college football, everybody is now too, but the goal is very simple. There's a salary cap. Everyone's on the same playing field. And you want to win a Super Bowl. And if that's your expectation for TCU, I'm not saying that's wrong. I just think there's still optimism that you can get from a season, even if it doesn't go completely the way you expected or the way you wanted. And I believe there's a lot to build on for 2025. You have returning offensive linemen. You've got a returning quarterback most likely. You have a defense that'll be in year 2 of a system where they've shown some flashes of progress. They had a really rough, middle of the year. Started out well, had a rough middle of the season. They seem to have kind of righted the ship somewhat. I wish they could have played that Baylor game at full strength, but it is what it is. And I have my qualms with Sonny too. I think there are philosophical things that he has to change. And I'm not sure if it's about him changing the way he approaches it or if it's just getting the right type of players in the building, but they have to be tougher, both physically and mentally. They have to get better up front. I think they're trying to do that. It just hasn't panned out yet. And that's on the coaching staff. And I've been very critical of that. I do believe there's value, though, in, all right, we were at a crossroads or we were at a rock bottom moment after that Houston loss with a bye week sitting at 3-3. It looked like we might end up 4-8, and there'd be wholesale changes, and that didn't happen. Now, you still need to find a way to win some of these games because I feel like if you finish 6-6 going into the bowl game, that's super disappointing. By the way, I looked today because I saw the forecast for Morgantown this week is very cold. UCS playing West Virginia. It's I wonder what Cincinnati looks like. 39 degrees is the high in Cincy on that Saturday that TCU plays Cincinnati. So I know they've played a lot of 11 a.m. games. That might be the best case scenario for TCU. It will be fascinating to see this offense in a cold weather environment when they've struggled so much to get yards on the ground. And that Cincinnati offense is pretty salty. So that's going to be a tough ball game. But it's winnable, and it would be a great way to close the season. We'll see how they, pan out when they get there next week. But first, Arizona, I think the Frogs win. Give me your predictions. You can throw a score in there. Do you think TCU gets to 7-4 and wins, or are they hovering around 500 again with a loss? And don't forget, we'll have a post-game show on Saturday evening, probably around 6 o'clock, 6:30. We'll go live. We'll do the post-game show. Done that each and every week here on Locked on Horned Frogs, except that one Saturday I was in Montana, and I did a recorded show after the fact. When we come back, we'll get your thoughts on yesterday's episode. This is Locked on Horned Frogs, your team every day. Have you ever wondered about PrizePicks or heard about it? You can download the app today. You can win now 100 times your money on PrizePicks with just 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get on the action in sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. It's not picking winners or losers. It's simply picking up or down or kind of over under on stat totals for specific athletes. So if you're interested in that, download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege and get $50 instantly when you play with $5. So $5 down, get you $50 instantly on the PrizePicks app if you use the code LOCKEDONCollege. Sign up today. They offer weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday each Tuesday. They also have discounts on select player projections up to 25% to provide more value for your lineups. Download the app today. Use Locked On College to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. PrizePicks, give it a go today. So I asked yesterday if TCU had an elite offense, and Vince Pryor, in a very efficient way, said no. I asked him to explain more, and he doesn't think this offense is elite. He says, do you feel like they would put up the same numbers against Georgia, Colorado, UCF, SMU, and U of H? So Georgia, no, definitely not. I don't think this offense will be super successful against Georgia. Now, the other teams you mentioned, yeah, I feel like they could. Colorado has a good defensive line that might give TCU some fits, but that defense I don't think is very good. U of H, I feel like with a rematch, they would be better prepared for what Willie Fritz is going to throw at them in the moment. It was coaching malpractice what happened. SMU, I mean, they put up points against SMU. They turned the ball over too much, but they scored against that SMU defense. Unfortunately, the defense couldn't get stops. That was the thing to me. Like, there were 2 instances in that game. They cut it to 17-14 after the horrible start, and SMU went right down the field and scored. And then I think at the beginning of the second half, they cut it to 10, and Sonny just got ejected, and it was like, all right, if you can get a stop here, maybe you can get back in this ball game, but they didn't. And then the turnovers happened, and that was the end of it. But they moved the ball against SMU when they weren't throwing interceptions and fumbling the ball. So I get it. Vince is not a Sonny Dykes fan. That's fine. This is the marketplace of ideas. I have my qualms with them too. But I think this offense is improving a lot. I feel like this is a much different offense than we saw the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. Richard Berry just wants the Pop-Tart Bowl so he can go. He's down there in Florida. He wants to see the Frogs in person. I get it, man. I hope it happens for your sake. Landman says, I think Hoover could be elite next year. He keeps getting better and protects the ball. We really need to focus on getting our run game going. Yeah, they do. I mean, that's got to be the focus. And the way they got around it this year is not going to be applicable next year because Savion's moving on. So you have to find a way to run the ball with your running backs. And I think that's partly on the O-line. That's partly your running backs improving and getting bigger too, and just stronger. That's got to be the key. Tanner says, I'm willing to bet if TCU keeps cooking pain next season, the run game will be much better. It's their first season playing, so they can definitely get better, but the line needs to be good. Yeah, they can improve. I mean, that's an important thing to note. Like, people can get better, right? We watched, and part of it was coaching change. We watched Max Duggan struggle for 3 years. First 2 years, he really struggled. Third year, he was kind of inconsistent. And then finally, things took a turn, right? So teams can improve. Zoom Play says, yes, they have one of the best offenses in the country. Next year will be a top 10 offense. Love it. Hope to see it. I think they do have that time potential, but some things have to come together for them for sure. And then Liam says, Frog Fan says we get O-line and D-line fixed. We should be a Big 12 championship contender next year. I'd agree with that. I think if you get the trenches figured out, then you're right there in the mix. Liam says, favorite TCU podcast. Thank you, Liam. That's very kind. I appreciate you guys listening, watching. Even Sam, who comes in and trolls in the YouTube comments every day about how great he thinks TCU is. I'm not sure if he's an SMU fan, Georgia fan, but appreciate you too, Sam Morgan. Thanks for hopping in on the show and helping the algorithm. This is Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We'll close out this week of shows on Friday, and then post-game show on Saturday.